I forgot something I wanted to mention earlier before we get into the message. I don't know if you've noticed this. They're building two buildings right next to us, right? Yeah. And so one of the things that, there's going to be a lot of people moving in, basically our neighbors, And so one of the things we want to do is we want to bless that space. And what I mean by that is we want to begin to maybe serve the construction workers. Maybe it's coffee here once a week, or donuts once a week, something like that. Want maybe grill out for them for a lunch once a week or whatnot. Provide warm space in here when it's winter time, right? So there's a lot of ways that we can start blessing those spaces and creating relationships with the people that are building it, and then hopefully relationships with the people that own it, so that we can be a place that welcomes visitor or guests that are moving into our neighborhood, and we can be the people that welcome them and let them know that we care and we love them. All right, so if you're interested in like being on a team, all right, that we're going to do some visioning, like what's it going to look like, some planning, some budgeting, if you love budgets. So sign up for that on your Connect card and let me know, and then I will get together with you, and we really want to begin, because I think they're supposed to be done building it in 18 months or so. So that's about how much time we have to really get that ball rolling. So with that being said, if you have your Bibles, we are in Matthew chapter 9, and last week, or actually, today we're starting the second half of chapter 9. And so it is there's kind of a shift in what Jesus is doing, what Matthew is having going on. So in the first 18 verses of Matthew 9, Jesus has been refusing to play by the agreed upon rules, right? He heals the paralytic and forgives him. It's like, you're not allowed to do that, right? I'm not allowed to forgive sins. He rejects the games that they're playing. He's rejecting social norms by going to the tax collector, right? He's like, we don't hang out with tax collectors, but he calls Matthew to follow him and be a disciple, right? So he's really just kind of breaking the rules, breaking the expectations of the people. And then last week, remember, Jesus challenged the notion that your faith is determined by your ability to check the boxes, right? And it's like, that's not what this is about. And so, I guess it wasn't last week, it was 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry. So in the second half of this chapter, we're going to see Matthew wants us to see Jesus as one who restores, that Jesus is a restorer. And so let's pick up in verse 18, Matthew 9:18. While he was saying these things to them, Jesus talking to the disciples, I think they were talking about fasting, suddenly a leader came in. And so the phrase, while he was saying these things, is very unique to Matthew. Matthew wants us he kind of likes to keep his story flowing. I don't know if you've seen that. It's just that it's like, and then, or I think at the end of, or at the beginning of chapter 8, right? It's like as Jesus was coming down the mountain, right? So there's this thing that Matthew likes to do that keeps things going. But I think also what's happening here is he really wants us to see, that this is not a casual discussion that's about to take place, that a ruler or a leader barges into this exchange, right? And so we know his name, not from Matthew, but this story is told in other Gospels. And so they had Luke and Mark, if you want to look later, I think it's Luke 8 and Mark 5, that his name is Jairus, and he's a religious ruler, okay? And so he wants us, so we need to see that he's interrupting Jesus. And so this guy is someone in the community that he would have known the religious leaders. He would have known the Pharisees. He would have definitely heard about Jesus. He would have heard about the miracles of Jesus, all those things. And for sure, what they don't want is they don't want anyone to have Jesus as a part of their circle, right? It's like we want to keep this Jesus thing far away, low. We don't want anything to do with this. And so this man is going to interrupt Jesus. And so I'm imagining that as he's going to interrupt them, like the religious leaders are probably like, oh, thank you, right? I'm so glad someone's going to stop this guy from talking, right? He just never stops, right? He's always teaching, and so finally this religious leader is going to walk in, and he's going to stop Jesus, right? That's empty. Can I have some water? You're awesome, baby. So watch what Jairus does instead. Matthew 9, which is still verse 18. We're on verse 18 for a while, and then we'll get to 19 later. While he was saying these things to them, suddenly a leader came in and knelt before him. Right, so he didn't come in with questions. He didn't come in with tricks or traps or anything like what the religious elite would have wanted, right? You're like interrupting Jesus. This is great. But instead, you interrupt him and you kneel. Thank you, honey. You kneel. So I already mentioned, so the first person, and this, if you were here for Matthew 8, do you remember the first person that came down at the beginning of Matthew 8 was the leper, right? The leper. And the first thing, and it sounded so familiar, they just sounded so much the same, Matthew 8:1 and Matthew 9:18. So this is Matthew 8:1. When Jesus had come down from the mountain, great crowds followed him, and there was a man with a skin disease who came to him and knelt before him, right? And so what does that mean? It's like, if you remember when we talked about this before, to kneel, like this isn't just like a just a basic respect kneel, right? The word knelt in the Greek is proskuneo, and it means to, like, it's where we get the word, like the idea of falling prostrate, like before. And so this is a like face to the ground, like laying. I would lay on the ground to show you, but I don't want to get this white shirt dirty. All right, but it's like this. It's a worship type of act, and so it's at minimum. It is to bow or kneel in reverence, but in Matthew's gospel, it is a signal of an act of worship. And so there he's coming before this religious ruler is coming in front of all these people, and he's bowing. He is putting his face to the ground in front of Jesus and going, "I've got an issue. I've got an issue." And so when I saw the passages next to each other, I was like, man, they look so familiar. Like Matthew's intentionally echoes the story of the leper in chapter 8 when he introduces the synagogue leader in chapter 9. In the first case, it's a man excluded from the community, right? That's the leper, right? He's excluded from the community due to his disease. In the second, it's a man who's embedded with religious affiliations, right? He's got all the religious stuff. He's loved, and people want to know him. People want to be around him. So it is a little bit different. But Matthew uses nearly identical language. But when Jesus approaches, status and stigma fade. If status and stigma fade, and so these people are worshiping Jesus, and they don't even yet know exactly who he is. They just know that he's way beyond them, right? Way beyond them, and so, but there's a big difference, I think. The leper in 8, what does he have to lose? Nothing, right? I mean, he's already completely pushed aside, completely marginalized. No one's allowed near him, right? He has to call out that he's sick anytime he's near anyone, right? So he has nothing to lose. But the religious leader, Jairus, he has everything to lose, right? And so that's what I was kind of seeing, like the difference. It's like in Matthew 8, it was very much Jesus touching people, right? Jesus touches the leper. Jesus touches the Peter's mother-in-law, right? There's all that. And then in chapter 9, Jesus is no longer the one that's touching, right? It's people are wanting his touch. They want him. And so they're the ones crossing the boundaries, is what we see in chapter 9, where in chapter 8, Jesus was the one crossing the boundaries. And so it says, I think in Matthew, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but I promise. In Matthew 10, all right, so this is like 3 months away. Verse 34, I think it connected well, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it says this: "Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I've come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And one's foes will be members of one's own household. I imagine after he said that, like the tax collector and the zealot like looked at each other, like yeah, he's talking about us, right? It's like the people that your enemies were together. But so this is not a violent sword, is what I'm talking about. And so there's this, like Jesus, he causes us to make decisions about where our alliances are. Like when Jesus is around, his presence is, I don't like the word divisive, but he divides, right? He divides. He makes you say, am I going to worship, right? Am I going to proskuneo, right? Am I going to kneel and bow before God? Or am I going to mock him? Am I going to laugh at him? Am I going to reject him, right? It causes that we have to choose when you're in the presence of Jesus. There's not a lot of lukewarm anything in the Gospels, right? It's like they don't like him or they love him, right? It's like a lot of that. The question becomes, are we going to worship? And that's what the ruler has decided. He has decided that my friends, the people that look up to me, the people I look up to, I need Jesus. And I'll take Jesus over all of it. That's what he is saying. He's giving up everything in this moment of worship. And so let's, and I feel like I skipped something, but we'll be all right. It happens. Let's finish the verse. We are going to finish the verse here. Matthew 9, verse 18. While he was saying these things to them, suddenly a leader came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." It's like, now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. It's desperation. What would cause you to hand off everything, to give up everything? This is a man who is desperate for something to fix his kid. And I think, because listen, if we were associates, and when your life was going great, every time I'd come by to see you, you would slam the door in my face. You would, say, hey, I'm not talking to you. I got friends over here. Every time I would come to do that, you continued to do that. And then, when your world fell apart, and I came again, and you said, now I need you, the human in me, the human in us goes, sorry, I got other things. I got other things to do. Other people, people that care. But that's not what we have in Jesus, right? It's not what we have in Jesus. And that's why I love the parent language. I know that the parent language sometimes it can be divisive, but it's because there is no one else on the planet that you can treat with complete disrespect and then still them be there every single time you turn around. That's what a good parent is. And so that's what we have in God. We have a God who says, you can be against me, you can be angry at me, you can not believe in me if you want, but when you do, when life really comes at the bottom and you really in the hole, I'm still here. And that's grace. That's something that, man, we don't have for other people as much as God has for us. And that's who we're called to be. So, verse 19. And Jesus got up. Now, have you ever been in a conversation with someone and they use a word that is odd, but it works, right? It's like, why did you say it like that? Why do you use, are you trying to say something by using that word, right? It's like maybe you've seen that, maybe you haven't, but what Jesus is doing here, or that's actually what Matthew is doing here. Matthew, the word got up there's like 6 better words. Okay, so the Greek word is, I'm going to try this, agero. I think it's agero. I think that's how you say it. But it's like you wouldn't use this word here if you're writing this. You just wouldn't write it. There's like, again, I think I found 6 other words that were way better. But what's happening here, the reason that he uses it is so cool, because the word, it's specific language for resurrection. Specific language, and so when Matthew talks about resurrection, Matthew uses agero, and so this guy comes to Jesus and goes, hey, my child is dead, and Matthew goes, Jesus arose. Giving away, like he's like giving away what's about to happen, right? If you're reading it in the Greek, you're like, oh, resurrection is about to happen. That's resurrection language, and so it says in verse 19, it says, he got up and followed him. Jesus followed him. Like, you don't see that anywhere else in Scripture, where Jesus follows someone else other than the Father, right? And so it's like, what is that about? What do we do with that? I think it's important to know that Jesus walks with us. I think Kanye said that. Jesus walks. In our pain, like in our struggles, in the darkest places, right? That Jesus doesn't just get to the end. That Jesus walks with us in our steps as we're going, and it's the idea, and that's where we get the concept of a good shepherd, right? Because I know, like, when we think of shepherds in the West, we think of like herding, right? Where you're driving sheep with, you use shepherd dogs and all these things. Like, but that's not what shepherding was like in Jesus' time. It was like the shepherd would walk among the sheep, right? And they would, like, when Jesus says the sheep know my name, and they, like, that's a real thing. Like, actually, you could have 2 different shepherds with their flocks come together and then cross each other. In there was one video I saw, there was like one sheep that didn't follow the right one. It was like trying to find him. Like, it's like they want to follow their shepherd. And so it's like Jesus is not pushing, he's not driving, he's not doing any of that. He's with us, right? Walking. And that's what the church is. And I always try to say, but like, well, how is Jesus walking? It's like the church, we are the body of Christ. And so we walk with people that are hurting. We visit people who are sick. Like, we do all those things because that's what Jesus does for us. And so we do it for each other. I love what Hebrews says. In Hebrews 4, kind of echoes this a little bit. For we do not have a high priest. It's talking about Jesus. We do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses. Because their high priests were like, they didn't get to know him, right? For the Jews, it's like, we didn't get to talk to the high priest. Like, we didn't get to know him. You didn't get any of that. It's like there was no relationship. He says, but our high priest, we have one who in every respect has been tested as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore approach the throne of grace with boldness, so that we may receive mercy and find grace and help in a time of need. It's like, that's what's happening. Isn't that Matthew 9? It's like they're just boldly, like, this guy's interrupting Jesus. Like, I know you're talking about fasting, Jesus, but my daughter's dead. My daughter's dead. And so Jesus got up and he walked with him. And I imagine you would want Jesus to walk with you in that moment, that he would be the best to have by your side. Now watch what happens. Am I running out of time? I'm actually going long today, sorry. Then suddenly, right, there's kind of this, as this is happening, this is Matthew's kind of thing, right? Suddenly a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. For she was saying to herself, if only I touch his cloak, I will be made well. Now, you remember in chapter 8 with Peter's mother-in-law, we said that there is an issue with people, with men touching women that they don't know. because if they're on the cycle, then then you're unclean, and then if you touch someone that's unclean, then you're unclean. Then there's this whole thing, right? It's like, so if you don't know somebody, you just don't touch them, right? Which is actually not a bad rule. Like, don't touch people. But so in this case, again, last time I said what? That Jesus was touching other people, and in not what's happening. They're touching Jesus, right? And so because she can't do this, she's not allowed to do this. Like you're not supposed to touch people, and you're supposed to be like at home and alone. Like, so she's been for 12 years completely rejected and not allowed to be around anyone. She is outside of community because of it, right? So she is not just sick, but she's been rejected by society. And so in verse 22 it says, Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And the woman was made well that moment. She should have been condemned, shamed, or punished for what she did. But Jesus does none of that, right? Jesus restores a woman cast out. Jesus sees a woman who has not been seen in 12 years. And then Jesus calls her daughter, as if to say, listen, I know that you have been told that everything that's happened to you is because God is against you. But I want you to know you're a daughter, and you have a father, and he's good. And that's that to be seen. When you're not seen, I don't know if you've ever felt not seen, but like when someone recognizes you and then elevates you. Faith healed her, but Jesus dignified her. And that's part of our role as well. So back to our text. I am getting close. Verse 23. When Jesus came to the leader's house and saw the flute players in the crowd making commotion. So real quick, what is that? So flute player, like you had to it's in the Mishnah, in the marriage rules. It says this: even the poorest man in Israel must hire no fewer than 2 flutes and 1 wailing woman for his wife. Right. So there was a rule that when you had a funeral, and this is the Mishnah. So this is like oral law that eventually got written down later. And so this was just like, this is the rule. And but this is a religious leader, right? So he's not poor. This is what these people are. These are hired mourners, right? So they hire these mourners to come. But what does it mean? It means they're not expecting a miracle, right? They're done, right? They're having the funeral. They're doing the mourning. It's like, they have no expectation that I'm wondering if they even told Jairus, like, leave, don't go to Jesus. She's already dead. She's not going to make it. Like, why are you? And they're like, Jairus. He just doesn't want to admit it yet, right? I get it. But no, he goes to Jesus, and they're all like, we're mourning. It's over. And I thought, never mistake the noise of the crowd for the silence of God. That the world, and my wife would tell you these stories all the time, the world, your Christian friends, your Bible people, could tell you things are over, things are never going to work, things are dead, and you are done. And yet you still have to listen for the voice of the Spirit telling you what to do, right? And if you, so the crowd is going to say it's over. The crowd is going to say it's dead, that relationship, your job, the opportunity, the door is closed, it's done. But Jesus says, not so fast. And so if you're discouraged because something in your life looks bleak, I just want to encourage you, it's okay to stand in faith, even if people have said it's over. So he said, go away, verse 24, Jesus said, go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping. And they laughed at him. So when Jesus says she's sleeping, it's a theological claim. And it's actually, it's a language that Christians early on in the first century began to use for when someone had died, right? They would say they have fallen asleep. And the reason is because we are a resurrection people. Like, we believe in a and that the life that death is demoted to sleep. That's what Jesus did. Demoted death to sleep. And so as long as before Paul ever wrote it, Jesus was living. I think it was 1 Corinthians 15, right? Death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? Right? Jesus is saying, no, death, I am in charge. I am in charge, and it is now sleep, because it's not the end. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and he took her by the hand, and the girl got up. And the report of this spread through all of that district. And this is how the church grows. It's not with hype, but it's with hope. When we are a people that can bring hope to people, that we can bring that we can let people know that we believe in resurrection. We believe that your job can be resurrected. We believe your relationships can be resurrected. We believe that you will be resurrected, right? Like, we believe in life after death, and that death is not the end, even when it seems like it. And that's the God that we serve. So the crowd laughs at Jesus, but he didn't argue. He didn't preach. He cleared the room. He took her by the hand, and she got up. That's it. There's no fanfare. No performance, just restoration. And isn't that the invitation today? Jesus walks into the rooms where people have already given up, into homes that feel heavy with grief, into hearts that have been told it's too late, and he takes our hand. He doesn't shout, he doesn't scold, he reaches, he restores. And so when we come to the table of grace, not because we're clean enough, or bold enough, or desperate enough, but because Jesus is here. Where religion draws lines, Jesus opens arms. Where the world declares death, Jesus whispers rise. The table is for the Jairus' and the outcasts, for the desperate and the dignified, for the clean and the unclean, for the one who waited too long and the one who risked it all. This is where grace interrupts us. So come. Come not because you must, but because you may. Come not because you're worthy, but because you're welcomed. Come to one who conquered death by calling it sleep, and who proves resurrection begins with his touch. This is the body of Christ broken for you. This is the cup of salvation poured out for you. I'm going to pray, and then I would like to invite you to come and participate in the Lord's Supper. You don't have to be a member here. You don't have to be a church. Doesn't matter what your orientations are, or how you identify, what you did last night, what you plan to do tonight. This table's open, and I invite you to it. And so I think Cindy's going to come down and help me, and then I'm going to pray. And